Good afternoon, everybody, wherever you are in Europe or elsewhere. Welcome to a co-show from HSMAI Europe and Hotel News Now, part of STR and CoStar. My name is Terence Baker. I'm Senior Reporter Europe for Hotel News Now. It's my huge pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank Ingen and Benedict and Marius from HSMAI for setting up all the technology and all the getting together and talking to the panelists before this so we prepare. And now I really want to thank the panelists as well. I want to have them introduce themselves in a few minutes. Just a couple pieces of housekeeping. Firstly, there is an antitrust statement coming up on the screen, I so heard, just because obviously we are all commercial operations in the hotel world. That might come up at some point. I was told it will. Secondly, HSMAI are hosting a weekly live show every Tuesday, starting from the 13th of April. So keep your eyes open for that. Details will come to you, I'm sure. The first one is titled, and I'm reading, Branding, Exploring the Beauty of Focus in a Strong Hotel Brand. We all want to have strong hotel brands, and we have 6 with us today. And lastly, there is a chat room on the screen. You'll see to the right-hand side comments. If you have any comments, please write them there. I will look at them occasionally and we'll try to incorporate that into our conversation. So I will outline what the topic and conversation will be. We have an hour, but firstly, maybe our great panelists will introduce themselves, please, starting with Cynthia.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. My pleasure to be here. I'm representing top-line revenue management and pricing for over 1,000 Accor hotels in Northern and Western Europe. I joined Accor in 2016 from Fairmont Raffles Hotel Group after it was acquired by Accor and joined the corporate leadership team in Paris at that time. I've had the pleasure to work in the revenue management and top-line field for quite a while, and also have been a part of the instrumental team developing non-rooms revenue programs like restaurant revenue management, function space revenue management, and spa revenue management.
Thank you ever so much. I'm very glad you're here. Daniela.
Hi, my name is Daniela Buchen. I'm the Commercial Vice President and member of the Executive Board at the Ruby Group. Ruby currently operates 9 hotels and has 20 more in the pipeline. And next to hotels, we also have co-working spaces. We currently operate hotels in Germany, Austria, and the UK. Switzerland is coming up as well. And in my role, I'm responsible for the strategic future of the department's marketing, sales, revenue, distribution, reservations, and also our workspaces. Thank you, Terence. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Happy you're here. And lastly, in our 3 women, because we are absolutely balanced, we have 3 professional women, 3 professional men. Kelly.
Good afternoon, all. So my name is Kelly Andrews. I work for Hilton in the Revenue Management Consolidated Centre, the headquarters of Europe. In total, for European hotels, we look after 300 hotels. My role is director for the 46 UK and Ireland owned and managed properties, looking after the revenue.
Thank you so much. Now to the 3 men. Jaime.
Hi everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation for HSMAI to be panelist. So I'm Jaume Vidal, I'm Chief Revenue Officer for Barcelona Hotel Group. So we have 4 brands, as you might know, Allegro, Occidental, Barcelona, and as well Royal Hathaway. So of more or less over 100 hotels around the globe, specifically in LATAM, as well in Dubai and Asia Pacific. And specifically my responsibilities are about to develop the revenue department and as well to turn it more technological, going to the artificial intelligence, evolve the revenue to the artificial intelligence steps. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for being here, Jaime. Jonathon.
Hi, I'm Jonathon. I'm the Director of Revenue and Marketing Strategy at GLH Hotels UK. We're a collection of 18 hotels with a strong focus on London, with 14 of our hotels in London under the brands such as Hard Rock Hotel, Thistle, and very excited to announce a brand new brand that will come to London in May, the Claremont.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for being here. And lastly, Pa.
Hi, my name is Per Augustsson. I'm the Vice President Total Profit for Nordic Choice Hotels. We have all our hotels in Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and Finland. Around 210, 215 properties in the Nordics. And right now I'm calling from Oslo, sunny Oslo, where everything is locked down, sadly.
Well, hopefully we'll all get out soon. We're in lockdown in London as well. But thank you all for being here. We have, I think the antitrust statement is going to come up now, but I'm just going to plow on. We have about 55 minutes, a bit less than that, to talk about everything revenue management in the new world. I mean, what does it look like? We've obviously, the industry has lost a lot of talented people through no fault of our own. We have to carry on, obviously, with the demand we're seeing, the demand we hope is going to come. But how do we price this? I mean, how do we look at what's going to happen when there's so much indecision, both from the guest in terms of fear and indecision, from governments, from countries, from hotel brands? It really is a topic that I thought needed to be looked at. And as I say, we have 6 great panelists. So let me just get straight in. I mean, as I said, the revenue management landscape, it certainly needs new skill sets, perhaps, faster action, better testing. I mean, how has it changed in the last year, and where do you see it now and going forward in the next critical year or 2 years? Maybe we'll start with Pa.
Sorry, I need to unmute. Yeah, it's been a special year and it just keeps going. For us right now, of course, we are less people. It's more important for us right now is to focus on to have the right people at work. You need to have people that take bigger decisions by themselves. You need to be much faster. Before, it's like things changed in a week or 2 weeks. Now things change from a 5 minutes announcement from the government. You need to change your business, you need to change what you do. So for us, it's been really important to keep the staff that knows the profession revenue management from the base. You know the things. You are not focusing too much on the screen. You're focusing on the systems telling you what to do, because now you need to know why the system tells you what you should do and not to do. So for us, it's been focusing on keep the senior ones, keep the ones that are willing to do new things, to test new things. And basically, when it all comes to an end, it's actually easier now than before to follow the numbers. They are more important than ever. So for us, it's been tough in the beginning. Everybody was in a shock, but now I get the feeling like the people that still are in the companies now, still working with this one, they are quite secure that they know what to do. And so for us, it's been a lot of up and downs, but I'm really satisfied with the people that are here now. And they are the senior ones, the ones that's been on a dark Easter before. They know that things will go better. And yeah, that's basically what I want to say about that.
I mean, our owners, STR, obviously would be very happy when you talk about the need for more data. I mean, some of the larger hotel companies we have as panelists, Hilton, Accor, Barcelona. I mean, how are you seeing the landscape of what you're working with in terms of staffing and data? And you have a lot of markets to play with. Some of you might be specialised in certain areas, but you still have a lot of markets. I mean, what have been the big changes you've seen? And now and going forward? Maybe we'll start with Kelly or Cynthia or Jaime, anyone can.
Hi, so totally agree with Per. So to keep the senior one, to get the better interpretation of the information that we got, but specifically to catch the demand, to go forward, to move faster. Specifically, we have been really pushing forward artificial intelligence for us. So, and that's for us the big step that we have taken to adapt that to the new scenario, to pricing, to price this new world, is to getting more artificial intelligence, getting to know all the data in order to catch the minimal demand that there is nowadays. So specifically and for sure, STR as well integrated in this information, so as it should be. Thank you.
So I'm gonna open it up to anyone else. I mean, are you looking at data and analysis of the demand out there? Is that all you can do, or are you actually casting your crystal balls in the future because you don't want to leave any money on the table, presumably? I mean, how are you looking at? Are you looking at strictly from the demand you see, or are you starting to price for the future?
I don't mind talking about this for a little bit. So obviously data is very important, and where a company like Accor can help us get some insights is not only our tools, our data tools, but also we have as you've mentioned, a global footprint. So we get to have the experience of seeing different markets, have different learnings that we can then think about as different countries and areas are recovering, going through different governmental regulations at different periods in time. But I do want to come back for a moment, if I could, to one of your first points, and that's about people. And for me, we work in a people industry. People buy from people. Relationship management is what will really take us through this crisis. Data will be the tool we use, but people will be where we excel. So for me, I've heard my colleagues here speak about the more senior ones in being the ones that are with them today. And I think what they're really hitting on there is it's the business acumen and the ability to be a little bit more transversal in their actions, transversal in their communications, and be able to really champion the different activities that they want to take and really be able to have that, political business communication acumens that are also important.
Absolutely. I mean, it's Kelly or anyone else want to step in on that?
Yes, I may. Go ahead,
Kelly
Kelly.
first, Daniela second.
I was going to say, totally agree with what Cynthia just said. I think both about the people part and the data, to be honest. So I think, to Pa's point, our people have had to be much more agile. And I think we've learned a lot in the last year as well. We're having to do a lot more with a lot less. And that's actually been really powerful, I think. And I think it's a lot of loyalty as well from the team that are remaining. And so that's been very important to us. In terms of data, yeah, that's absolutely important. But as Cynthia referred to, the learnings that we've had from, we're very lucky that we've got a global footprint. So we are taking the learnings from different areas and applying that to what we're seeing now. And I think also, I'm sure all countries are the same, but in UK and Ireland, we did come out of lockdown last summer, so we've got learnings from that as well. We can look at that and apply that to hopefully what's going to happen in the coming couple of months. So I think it's a mixture of everything.
Daniela?
Yes, talking about the skill or the job revenue management specifically, I think the parameters have still stayed similar. You still need to know what do your guests want, what is your demand like, who are your competitors, but you need to reevaluate the values of these parameters new because you can't rely on historic data. So in that sense, pricing a new world is comparable to positioning a new pre-opening hotel. You need to reevaluate who are your competitors. Is it still the same as it's been for the last 20 years? Do your guests still want the same as they wanted last few years? Or have your guests' needs changed? Have your guests changed itself? And then again, I think it's also very important to take an additional parameter into consideration, which are, of course, the government restrictions. We need to make it easy for the guests, for our clients to not be illegal and comply to government restrictions, but still adapt to their needs. In terms of data, we need to be very seeking for opportunities, and we need to seek trends also when they're only small, because priorly we could rely on a lot of data, and perhaps a pickup of 1,000 rooms would be setting a trend, and now we maybe have to do with a pickup of 100 rooms or only a 10 rooms, which is already a trend. So in that term, I think we need to be more flexible and react quicker.
Thank you. I mean, Jonathon, I mean, what has been lost, do you think, in the last year? I mean, in terms of probably industry insight from a lot of esteemed colleagues, or do you think something's been gained? I mean, obviously in London, you're in a very, most of your hotels in London, very specific market. It's been hammered. I mean, I live in London, but I've not been to the centre of London for 13 months, once. I mean, what's been lost, and how do you get your teams and your thinking and strategy back in place for demand that does not exist right now, but hopefully come back soon?
For London, it's been really difficult, because London as a destination for years and years and years has been a solid destination where occupancy year round is well over 85%. So to come out into the summer last year with occupancies in single digits, we've had to really adapt. And we've really relied on a lot of our partners, whether they're our distribution partners or whether our digital media partners, to really give us insights into the changing customer behaviours, and then trying to adjust to those customer behaviours where they're looking for obviously a good price, but there's a lot more to the price, like flexibility, like the value that they're getting, and having that comfort of being able to come to a city or a destination and know that they'll have a great experience that is safe, but also of good value. So it's been really important to rely on our partners for that sort of information. I
mean, we'll move on to what we're selling, essentially. I mean, comments been made, and it's an obvious one that, I mean, these situations, I mean, ADR is everything. You want that ADR integrity. You're selling a product that still has value. I mean, what else are you selling now? And how do you work with companies who might be looking for bargain basement pricing? I mean, you don't, when demand is so little, how are you working with your partners, your business partners, and to sort of price correctly and to sell your hotel the value that it warrants?
We really looked at the hotel square metre by square metre and looked for every opportunity, whether it's a banquet kitchen, which we haven't been using, that we've been able to turn into a dark kitchen for the Deliveroo and takeaway companies, or whether it's looking at repurposing some of our meeting rooms into small office space for those that maybe were using shared office spaces before and want their own areas for safety. So taking that sort of holistic total revenue approach and looking at all other revenue opportunities has really helped our business position ourselves. So when we do start selling rooms again, it's just not the focus on rooms. We have all these other revenue streams that can support the overall business.
I can't speak enough about what you say there, Jonathon, because if we think about what some of the regulations that we're seeing across Europe, things like our restaurants and what we can do, and to use Kelly's words, the ability to pivot a little bit is really, really valuable. We also have, you know, look, in the end, it's all about bottom line for some of the hotels right now too, right? So for me, we've been fortunate enough to have some countries in Europe where there are different abilities to close their business and still keep liquid and still have some type of recovery, waiting for them when the government restrictions are over. So this is also in the end of the day important to think about what is the planning today? What are we selling today? Are there ways that we can take advantage of the business climate provided by different companies? What's coming with the government regulations in the future? Our customers can be a restaurant customer, a spa customer. We can repurpose our space. We can think about different segments, but also, to me, travel is about passion. This is why I'm in this industry, and keeping the dream alive is also important, and selling the inspiration is also something that's important right now.
Yeah, we'll get to loyalty and marketing and those wonderful things a bit later. I mean, maybe
Sorry, Terence.
Jaime maybe and Par and I know Ruby has hotels dotted all around Europe now, but in limited markets, I mean, Jaime, you're probably greatly dependent on Northern Europeans to fill a lot of your rooms in Europe, at least. I mean, what are you doing in terms of getting your hotels selling the right value, as Jonathon and Cynthia were saying?
Yes, indeed. So, but not only in Europe, but as well in LATAM or wherever in the globe where we are. So we try to maximize the value that we give to the customer. But specifically, we have to adapt to the demand, the real demand, the demand on the market. So that's very, very, very important. If we don't want to lose the ADR, we talked about earlier on with Pair, that we don't want to lose ADR rates when there is no extra demand that we need to adapt. So that's the existing demand, and that's where we keep, because they know more demand, further demand. So where we want to be competitive is where the demand is enough to get an extra push. So, and that's where we work. But the main focus, I completely agree with Cynthia and with Jonathon, is to put the most value nowadays on the price. The focus, I repeat again, is we don't need to lower the prices where there is no extra demand. So that's nonetheless, and what it does, it just only raise more our margin.
I think Jaime's just frozen.
Sorry, I can continue there. I totally agree with Jaime about the rates, and also what Cynthia talked about, that even though we need to try new things, we need to see how the new situation is for our guests. But for example, we could see when in Norway they closed down the restaurants, then people start booking our hotels for the weekends because we were the only one allowed to keep the restaurants open. So suddenly we get a new kind of business. They booked our hotel because they wanted to go out eating. So the good thing about that is to see, like I think you said before, but the thing is, people want to go out. People want to travel. People want to do things. People want to go to the spa, to the restaurants. And at the same time, we've been heavily focused on the corporate business. It's been like biggest part for our business for many, many years. And now we are focusing on leisure. That's the thing we need to say. We need to change we build paddle courts in our conference rooms. We do a lot of things about that. But the important thing for us right now is to find a way how you can use the hotel differently than you did before. Because before you did know that they are full Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, basically, and Thursday, and then they are empty. So you need to find deals for the weekend. But now people want to do something. They want to have some experience for the weekends. And then the food and beverage, it's more important than ever. And we could see, like, every time the governments do something to open, we fill out our hotels for the weekends because people want to go to the restaurants. So I'm quite positive about the situation. And also, I think we were going to talk about it later on. We see, like, with the big companies, before we discussed rates all the time, how to create a good deal for both of us. But now actually the rate is not the first thing they want to talk about. They want to talk about safety, and they want to talk about cancellation rules. They want to know, they want to book, they want to plan for the big conference, the big events, but they don't want to pay for 5,000 people if they can't do it because of the government. So that kind of things, I think it's been a switch from talking about rate and good deals to safety, cancellation rules. And on that way, we come a little bit closer to our biggest customers, actually.
I think that's an excellent point, because the human need to interact and to travel, as Cynthia pointed out, will be to such a degree that, of course, price is always important, but probably less so. I mean, it's like, when I am allowed to travel, how am I going to make sure that I can get to the hotel, etc., rather than worrying about the ADR all the time? Kelly, maybe I come to you in terms of having this sort of leisure focus now in a business hotel, of which you have many. How will that help you get back the sort of more corporate pricing and groups, and how will that position your hotels for those people in future? And there's a question to that point in a comment box from Renee Wilderman saying, how do you see the recovery of the corporate market in general, especially meetings and conferences, now that everyone's on Zoom or StreamYard? That's what we're on now.
Yeah, so absolutely. Yes, leisure, I guess, has been fantastic for us. The fact that, we're getting leisure business now in hotels that, already booking from May onwards that we maybe didn't normally expect to get leisure from, but because there's that pent-up demand, I think, with people wanting to travel. I think in terms of the corporate market and meetings and events, that's still on our agenda, that's still on our to-do list. I think it will come back. People will still need to travel for business purposes. And actually, at the moment, with only restricted travel available in the UK, we are seeing that people are still traveling on business if it's essential. So, that's going to continue. I think, to the point we've been making, people want to see people. People want to interact. So much as Zoom's been a fantastic, and other platforms have been fantastic for the job we've needed them to do at the moment, where we're all based at home. But I don't think that that's going to totally replace people wanting to meet in person. Maybe, to the point of being agile, we're going to change. We're going to deal with more hybrid meetings. That was something we didn't really do a lot of before last year. It sort of hadn't even, I guess, crossed our minds, but now that's going to be a much bigger focus. But I think everything has a time and a place, and we just need to be ready for when for whatever the guest wants at the time that they want it.
And maybe that hybridization will decrease when travel corridors are cemented, when vaccinations passports, which will happen, are published, etc.
I just want, if I may, interject and really pull forward a point that Kelly has said, because I've been through a few different economic downturns where there've been all kinds of commentary saying, oh, it's going to change the face of corporate travel will stop, meetings will stop. Look, how we do business will have, let's say, some longer term implications. However, you can't take away from our nature, human beings, that we are social creatures. It's who we are. And how we want to do business, we may make different decisions on how we decide to travel for business. However, give the corporate travel a few years, it will move beyond non-essential. You can't take away from us human beings that we want to see each other. We're in the relationship business, right? Allowing people to see, touch, feel.
Daniela, Jonathon?
If I may add to Cynthia and Kelly, I fully agree with both of them. I think it's also important to see that currently to the major cities, about 70% of visitors are day visitors. So you would fly in for one meeting into London or into Frankfurt or into Zurich in a big city. One meeting, fly in the morning, fly back out in the evening. And that are the meetings that you maybe would do on Zoom or Microsoft Teams now. It's the actual overnight stays, the actual more important meetings that will stay on. And that is actually only about 30% of the travel that's happening. So in that sense, I think it's a major or a stronger impact perhaps on the airline industry than actually on the business or the meeting industry for hotels.
Yeah, and so, as we said earlier, so much of this future demand is going to be dependent on government decisions, on the airlines restarting again, and things like that. I mean, I'd like to get back to this topic we broached on working with firms. I mean, and working with clients and business groups for the future. I mean, we heard just recently, just now, that ADR isn't the number one discussion point. But how are you working with groups now for demand that you hope will exist in the future? Will exist in the future. We're pretty guaranteed of that. But how are you working with groups now, and what are your conversations with them?
I can start with that. For us, it's more, before you had like these cancellation rules that we talked about before, but now it's more flexible. Now it's more in the contract that if you can't do it on different reasons, we move it instead. We try to keep the business. We are much more flexible on how to move them. So actually that's actually a little bit positive, but at the same time sad, because now people are moving so many things. So actually the beginning of 22 looks very well, because you've been moving so many things from 21 to 22. So actually, regarding the prices and things, actually we have some higher demand days in 22 now than we had at this time in 19 for 20, because it's been moving so many big things. And this, as Daniela said, because maybe you will take the Zoom meeting in a smart meeting, then you have a 1 hour, but the bigger things will be even more important, because people are working home, go home, you don't meet so many people. So when you should bring the company together and do the big things, you need to keep them in one spot. You need to have them. And at the same time, Jamie's sound did turn away a little bit here. That's the best commercial we can have for the tourists, because you will always have technical issues when you have a big meeting in this one. So every time the sound goes down and you're a little bit angry about that, that's the best thing that can happen for our business. We need to have, if everything was perfect, then people could use this more. But every time you've been in so many meetings with discussing, and everybody like the same, I think Cynthia said it, we need to meet people. So it's a underlying demand. And also what I said before, the important thing now is the flexible things and help the guests to move it, because they want to have their meetings, they want to have their conferences, congresses. So that's how we try to do it. But it starts getting tough, because the houses are building up, especially in the beginning of 22.
What conversations are you having, Jonathon? And to that point, if all the conferences are being pushed further down the road, perhaps others will want those same dates as well. I mean, obviously it's about relationships and contracts and promises, etc., etc. But are you not losing a lot of money by pushing? You know, what conversations are you having with your clients and your owners and management boards to make sure that the revenue comes in at the right type of revenue at the right time?
It's been really interesting talking with some of our regular clients who come in year after year, and traditionally they've come in the same week, same month every year. But because of the lockdowns that we've had over the last 12 months, that they've had to be flexible. And all of a sudden they've realized it's not that difficult. It is quite easy to be more flexible, and we've been able to give them dates that perhaps they can get better value. And that's opened up another conversation. So we're now actually able to move some of the business that we saw in high demand into some of our not so high demand, and really balance out our books and working with our clients to get the best outcome for them, saving some money, but still delivering an amazing service, and it evens out my on the books position. So quite positive in terms of that flexibility in both regards.
Somebody else with Kelly, what happened? Obviously we're a much larger stable of hotels. What are you hearing and talking about?
No, I'd say the same thing. I think the conversations are much more around, yes, what we can offer them in terms of flexibility. That comes up a lot more than, you know, so if they book, will they be able to move it if something else happens? You know, people are very aware now that things can come, you know, out of left field and surprise you. So, but yeah, in terms of we're just managing, I guess, the demand as it comes in and having to see where that's coming from. And when we do start to see these peaks, then we manage it accordingly. But yeah, I guess same as we always have done in a way. It's just shifted. We've almost just kind of skipped a year, but yeah.
I think that a lot of the very experienced meeting planners are realizing the importance of the terms and conditions on the contract, right? So I think that price isn't necessarily the most important conversation topic at the moment. Jonathon's brought a great point forward that flexibility in terms of being able to take care of those peaks and troughs and you know, at least what I'm hearing is to pull what Kelly said in terms of flexibility, what Jonathon has said, to really kind of look at your overall calendar and fit things in and find something that's a good fit for both, is something where different meeting planners might not have wanted to do before. They might wanted to try to power into those dates, you know, do things a bit more cookie cutter. We're all being a bit more creative, but there's more important things now than just the price when we're talking about getting the business.
And lead times less and less all the time, I imagine.
Well, I think that this is something that we certainly saw even before Corona, yes. Right? So I'd be curious to see how things come around, because we all can see the intense pent-up desire for travel in many different segments. Certainly meeting and events is one. So then I think I'll be curious to see how this plays itself out, and maybe we'll see a little bit of a reversal of the trend of the booking window, maybe towards 2023. Let's see.
With this notion of so much pent-up demand, and then we know it's there. I mean, relationships made now, trust made now, the integrity of your business and conversations, I mean, that's critical, is it not?
For me, I will say that we're in the relationship business, right? That's what we do, and I'll bring forward a comment that someone said earlier. A lot of clients traveling now, certainly we see that with the leisure clients too. They want to feel confidence in their security. They want to feel confident that they can be flexible. And when you look at a lot of the different surveys that have been happening right now, this is more important than price. So for me, building that relationship of trust, not only with, let's say, cancellation policies, but communicating before the guests arrives, explaining to them what will be the protocol during their check-in process, during their checkout process, during their ability to decline rooms, the room cleaning service if they want. These types of things build an ongoing nature of trust that, of course, brings us closer to our customer. And it's something that we tried to do before with data. But again, I come back to the same point that I made before. We're human beings. That unique touch is what makes you build trust.
And I mean, everything Cynthia spoke about has a value attached to it, doesn't it, in the long term, in terms of pricing? I mean, is it too early now to start pricing, say, 2022, 23?
No, of course not. We need to do it. but for me, I think the most tricky thing is about it, like Cynthia said, we work with our customers, our guests are human. It's like the tricky calculation now is about the service. You have these big hotels, you don't have the same amount of staff, you don't have the same amount of guests, you don't have the same amount of, your ADR is lower. It's tricky because I think in the first time after the pandemic, you were happy that you got a hotel room and you get a breakfast. But now it's important that because your expectations is the same. If you check into a Nordic Choice hotel or a Hilton or a Accor hotel, your expectations is quite high. Your demand is something. And when you come there, you see it's not so many people. It's not the same service in the reception. and for a while you can take it, but soon enough, when things will turn around, like the service level that all the hotels gives to the customer will be more important than ever, because you have your loyal guests. They've been with there, they know about the situation, but that's one thing. So I think that's my nightmare right now, is like how to find that good thing, because you cannot have 15 people in the reception when you have 16 guests checking in. So that's a tricky one. But about the rate, I think, for example, we can take one thing about prepaid. It's been dead for a long time right now. But every day now we can see like the prepaid rate for the after 20th of June or something, it's increasing every day. So our guests have believe in the future. They actually want to plan for the summer. They want to have something to do. So it's been a switch the last 2-3 weeks. Before that, it was almost nothing, but now it comes more and more every day. So it also shows a little bit that at least our guests have some kind of hope for the future.
Yeah, so maybe Kelly, Jonathon, Jaime, I mean, all this has been said in the last few minutes. How does it affect segments? And I mean, are we just looking at selling economy and luxury? Maybe luxury not having 2 staff to every 1 guest, but it might be, you know, pared back a bit now. But I mean, how does all of this affect this? How you look at the segments of your hotels? I mean, the large hotels such as Barcelona and Hilton have, you know, many brands.
I think there's still a place for everyone. I mean, there's a lot of talk about kind of especially that pent-up luxury demand and how people, you know, some people have had the opportunity to save during this sort of lockdown period. So, you know, and they haven't been on holiday for over a year probably, which, you know, in this day and age is unusual for a lot of people. So, you know, maybe your next trip is actually the big trip you've always wanted to do, rather than, you know, maybe you'll treat yourself to an upgrade, that sort of thing. So I think, you know, I still think there's going to be a brand for everyone almost. It may be that this changes, you know, as we've talked about everything, we need to be agile and we need to react to it quickly, because maybe there's certain appeals in the shorter term where things are still a bit uncertain as to preferring, if you've got, I don't know, a more focused service where you've just sort of in the room to yourself, you've got maybe a sink or kitchenette, whatever, and then maybe later on you're more comfortable to move, you know, into different accommodations. So I think there's still going to be a need for all those markets. It's just as and when where we are in recovery, and that depends by country, right? Like, you know, overall.
Is it a question? Sorry, Jaime, please.
Sorry. So completely agree with Kelly and about what Per said, that regarding to the groups and the different segments. So some moments in the future, they are already a little bit busy. So what you are going to do is getting higher rates to the new groups that want to go to this specific times of the year. And indeed, so you have to be considering specifically the service that you are offering. So indeed, that's very, very important. And as Kelly was telling about it, that you can't mix everything together because the prices will go up. Indeed, we are talking about the ketchup effect, so that indeed we are expecting that, but we have to be very, very careful about the service that we are offering. And indeed, the different segment, we have to be aware that if the people, they are expecting to go on holidays, so they want the right price for that right experience.
Yeah, and I have one thing about that with the segments. One thing that could be good for the future is in the Northern Europe, we always had quite a big percentage of dynamic rates for the companies, much bigger than the fixed rates. It's a little bit different in different markets, but for now it's so many companies that's been saying no to dynamic rates for many years are actually changing their agreements to dynamic now. And if we can show them that that's a good thing, as like Jonathon said before, that if you plan your travel a little bit, don't go Tuesdays to London, instead go, I don't know so good in the market in London, but if you go Thursdays instead, you would save the money that you do that. So that's been positive now, that companies that never wanted to talk about dynamic rates actually have been at least starting the discussion about that. And that could be really good for the future.
I'm looking at the sorry.
I agree there with Bar. I think now this is the time to take dynamic rates as an opportunity, because the fixed contracted rate may be higher than your actual bar you're selling at the moment, or your dynamic discount you would be selling at the moment. So it's a nice advantage for the corporate companies. But then in the long run, of course, for hotels, changing all contracts from fixed to dynamic gives or provides a lot more flexibility. So it would be a win-win for both. And I would really say take that opportunity now to change your fixed rates to dynamic.
I'm looking at a couple comments we have up here, and they look related. Maybe Jonathon. Terhe, I apologize if I pronounced that wrongly. Terhe Olsen said, in challenging revenue times, are you willing and able to invest in solutions as virtual meetings, virtual fam trips, or will there be others in the value chain who owns that income stream? Are you investing in it personally, wanting a slice of that pie? And Dan Humby says, has the pandemic accelerated digital projects which can drive efficiency and automation given the obvious revenue constraints? So are you wanting to go more into that area of business to own it, and based on the fact that you might have a bit less cash to spend anyway?
We've invested heavily in digital transformation over the last 12 months. We're in the final stages of upgrading our CMS, so new websites on their way, a brand new CRM that will integrate with all our other systems, as well as looking at new apps and new ways of the customer journey to enhance that. Second to that is our data and making sure that we map in the data that we've always looked at, so our segmentation from the actualized data, but also looking at the segmentation, the audiences of the behaviors of people shopping online, and really trying to identify those customers with a high intent or a low intent in terms of conversion, and giving them incentives to either upgrade or a discount to actually convert into a booking. So it's trying to map all those sorts of digital journeys into one seamless ecosystem that works together. And part of my role, which has evolved over this time, has been moving from revenue management and then taking marketing as well, and bringing those two elements together, because it's so much more important now that there is a connectivity between both the marketing elements and the revenue management strategy.
So no siloed thinking where you are. Is that the same for everyone else? How have you seen that relationship between marketing, and we'll go on to loyalty in a second, but how has that changed for the rest of you?
Indeed, the same as Jonathon, we have invested heavily in the last years, and specifically months, on artificial intelligence, trying to maximize the profitability of the data that we have, the customer data, and mixing different sources, not only B2B information, but as well B2C, in order to maximize the value to the customer. And we can't do it on a brain, so we have to focus on, as Cynthia said, about the relationships. The person has to be involved with the relationship, but the best data available behind, and the engine, the machines, and the artificial intelligence has a lot to do on that, and that we have been developing and evolving our own tools on that direction. Thank you very much.
And I have one thing about that. For many years, our guest had a possibility to check in, check out in the app. You could also get your room key in the app, so you could take the elevator with your mobile. You can open your room with your mobile, and the usage of that one, we had it for many years, but people are not using it so much. For a hotel that had maybe 5% of the people using it, the guests, before, now it's certainly 20% or 25% easily, because so many things that we had before that didn't didn't get the catch-up effect, like Jamie said before. Now people start using the things that we already did some years ago, and that's actually quite good, because it gives more, it gives you more credit when you discuss with the owners and things, what you should do for the future, when the things that you already had showed out to be a success, or at least gets used more in this kind of situation.
But it took, in that particular case, maybe it took the very unfortunate occurrence of this virus to actually move people's thinking closer to that.
Maybe not thinking, maybe you just tried it out once and you saw, okay, this is quite smooth. I don't need to go to the reception. I check in here and I use my mobile to get the elevator up and I can open my room key. So yeah, actually it's sad, but still at the same time, maybe at least some people started to try it out and then find out that this is the way to do it in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, Cynthia.
No, I was just going to say to what Jonathon's talked about before in terms of the guest journey. So you're exactly right. These types of things in terms of online check-in, automated check-in, automated checkout are increasing for us too. But obviously that customer experience and the opportunity to talk more about the hotel, sell other features, sometimes can get lost in that equation. So what became a little bit more important for us as well is targeted pre-arrival messaging. So some of it talking about surely the communication topics on protocols for sure was wanted and needed, but also different features that you can sell as ancillary items, right? That you might not have the opportunity because now people are wanting to move forward with automated check-in. So talking about different room type upgrade topics. So bringing it forward in the electronic customer journey and ensuring that you have those types of things to sell all of the features, unique features of that hotel are really important.
I just got a comment on this from Vasilis Siropoulos on the comment saying, as we all know, it's about the total spend of a customer, looking at that. It's about the total value and the profitability at that customer level. I mean, obviously, critically important. I mean, loyalty, I mean, working more and more closely with your loyal members, obviously, Cynthia was hinting at that. I mean, before we went on air, several of you announced that you have new hotels, 9 hotels from Nordic Choice, maybe, if I remember, several from Ruby. I'm sure Hilton opens all the time. Obviously, all these hotels are planned years ago, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, loyalty, how are you working with loyalty to sell those new hotels and to just increase your revenue in general? Any new hot ideas that changes how you've worked with loyalty, or is it just, again, engagement?
No, I can take a quick one. The loyal members, for us, they were important before the pandemic. They've been even more important during the pandemic. And so now the thing is to show them that we take them seriously enough to give them something special so they continue to stay with us, because the percentage of the loyal members that we have in the company has been much higher during the pandemic. So we could see like the one who chose us before, they did choose us now. And that also gets back to what I said before, like, where should you put your service level? Because these are the loyal guests coming back and back and back. And you need to put your cost on the right things, because they are even more important than before. And they've been like showing that they are willing to keep staying with us. And now it's important to show them that we can offer the good service that we did before.
Yeah, I totally agree. Our Hilton Honors members have always been, our priority. Like, they're our loyal members, and they're the ones that are really helping us. So, I don't know that it's anything necessarily, that's always been important to us. It's not necessarily different, but it's just continuing to listen to them, understand exactly what it is that they need from us, to make them continue their loyalty. So it's the relationship piece, I think, that's key, understanding exactly what we can do to maintain their loyalty.
And are those kind of messages and approaches changing based on the geography of your guests? Obviously, maybe Jonathon and Daniela might have a higher percentage European guests at their hotels. Hilton, obviously, for their European hotels, has no doubt probably a huge degree of North American travelers. So how are you talking to different people when that demand might not come back initially?
Yeah, I think there it's very important to know who are your guests and what do your guests want. Ruby is targeting the digital nomads, so we are very much focused on lean luxury, on very lean processes, digitalization. and automation, talking about the guest journey that Cynthia mentioned before, or also what Par mentioned, if you have 16 check-ins and 15 people at the reception, it doesn't work. So you need to rethink, what do your guests actually want, and how can we automate processes in order to stay profitable, but also make it easy for your guests. Have all the information in a pre-arrival message, or make it easy to check in online, have an app that is working well, have all the data from your guests right there, and a guest doesn't need to look for their credit card details once again when booking. For me, for instance, if I compare it to booking British Airways or EasyJet, I definitely prefer to book EasyJet, and not because the service in the flight is better, but because the app is great. It's so easy to book, and there is a flight tracker there. And that's just a very little tiny thing that makes me prefer to book EasyJet. And I think there we really need to make sure who are our guests, what do our guests want, and how can we make it as easy as possible for our guests to book us, to stay with us, and to be fans, be loyal guests.
And presumably when guests do come back, don't ask them at the desk if they are a loyalty member when they are, and things like that. I mean, because they're going to come back with huge expectations, pent-up frustration at this horrible year we're in, wanting to have the dream holiday of their lifetime or the best business trip ever. Hotels have to be at the top of their game when they come back, don't they?
Definitely. And there again, I think we need to use automation and digitalization to become better, not to replace the guest service, but to be better. Because a digital system can always be better at recognizing a guest or knowing a guest is a member than a person who has been at the front desk for 2 months.
Indeed. Yeah. We are just about to wrap up. I mean, we had a fantastic conversation. Seems to me that ADR is not everything. Conversations, relationship, trust, preparation, non-siloed thinking, initiatives, ingenuity, all the things that hoteliers are famous for, but even more so. So if I can wrap it up in the same order we introduced ourselves, what is the one thing that you are concentrating on or keeping top of mind as you sit down at your desk every morning? We start with Cynthia.
Yeah, so for me, I would think about the non-siloed thinking topic, ensuring that creativity is at the center of what we do, and using digitalization and automation to from anything from making me more free to talk to my loyalty or marketing colleagues, or to make a GM able to get out from behind his desk and go greet and shake hands and make that memorable experience.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We keep it down to like 30 seconds each. We'll get through this. Daniela.
Yeah, coming back to what I said at the start, I think it's very important to know what your guests want. The parameters of revenue management stay the same, but you need to know your guests. You need to know your competition. You need to know what is your demand like in order to offer the right product.
Thank you. Kelly.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I was going to say, keep the guest front and center, understand what they want, remain agile, react accordingly.
Thank you. And I always understand in this quick answer session, maybe person number 5 and number 6 will have the same point as number 1. Don't worry about that. Jaime.
Sorry, I just need to unmute. But indeed, customer-centric strategies are basic, and to adapt the value and the specific together with the right data. That's how we can still catching up the demand that it's to come. Thank you very much.
That was getting good data, wasn't it? Fantastic. Jonathon.
Yeah.
Over the last 12 months, we've had the time to look holistically and strategically at the business. As the hotels reopen and we get busy again, do take the time, do make the time to still step back and look holistically and strategically to prepare for the future.
Great point. And lastly, Pat.
Yeah, I would say same as Kelly. Keep the guest. What I'm trying every day when I start, try to see some trends. I want to see something to see the potential and test things. But and also more than before, I think I spend a little bit more time to look at the actual customers in the hotel to find the reason of travel, to see why they are there. Why, if something changed, if you see something a little bit out of the new normal, to find out what's happening and why are they there, to see the potential for the future.
That's a great point, because not everyone's going to come back traveling out of frustration. Well, thank you ever so much. I really, really appreciate the time and insight, and conversations we've had have been fantastic. Again, thank you all so much. That was a wonderful conversation, and thank you to the audience for your comments and listening. I hope you got a great deal out of that you can take back to your offices and roles. And lastly, again, thank you HSMAI. Thank you.